The seeds of the solar man. Gnostic brothers, let us now study matters concerning the human being. Some time ago, in eastern Tibet, within the monastery of the Dalai Lama, I had to wait in line with some monks in order to have a personal interview with the mentioned master. As there were many monks who wanted to speak with the Dalai Lama, I obviously had to be patient, and indeed, I did so. But truthfully, brothers, it wasn't necessary to wait for long. The Dalai Lama called me aside, and of course, attended to me first. I want to refer, emphatically, not to the current Dalai Lama who is in exile in northern India, but to his predecessor, the 13th. Naturally, it's worth mentioning that some monks whispered among themselves, saying, "We are also men, so how is it possible that this one is given precedence over us?" I overheard their words, and so did the Dalai Lama, and I commented to him. "These monks believe they are men, but you know very well that solar men are the Buddhas." Smiling, the Dalai Lama said to me, "Yes, that's true, but we must remain silent, we should say nothing to them." In the courtyard of the monastery, we discussed many important things with that great master. Many years have passed since that time, and now here, with you, I can't help but recall that event. Man is quite a weighty word. The case of that Diogenes of ancient Greece comes to mind, who walked through the streets of Athens at midday with a lit lamp, searching for a man but didn't find one. He entered the homes of the best philosophers but found none. He visited the great scientists, but no man was found. He went to the eminent men, the politicians, etc., but nowhere did he find a man. "What are you looking for, Diogenes?" they asked, and he replied, "I'm looking for a man." "But the streets of Athens are full of men, what exactly are you searching for?" And Diogenes answered, "Those aren't men, those are beasts, they eat, they sleep, they live like beasts." Indeed, Diogenes did not find a man in all of Athens. Now, it is fitting for us here to ponder for a moment, does man truly exist? Are you sure you have reached the human state? Do you feel like men? These are enigmatic, difficult questions. Are we, perhaps, wiser than Diogenes Laertius, the distinguished orator and philosopher of ancient Greece? In the name of truth, we must say that there are men on the face of the earth, but they can be counted on the fingers of one hand. I know a group of men, it is an esoteric, divine circle, they are all immortals. Among them, I know 2 women of white, Celtic race, they remain young and extraordinarily beautiful. Their age is indecipherable, each of them has ages ranging from 1,000, 2,000, or even 3,000 years. They are men, I know them, and I bear witness to it here before you. Men with flesh and bone bodies, men in the fullest sense of the word. I know the Count of Saint Germain, that man knows how to transmute lead into gold, and by vivifying coal, he can create diamonds of the highest quality. The Count of Saint Germain is well known throughout world history, his sacred name reminds us of the Egypt of the pharaohs. Obviously, Saint Germain acted throughout the 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries in Europe, and even until the 19th. I know him. As the 20th century approached, he disappeared from Europe and went to the Himalayas. He returned to Europe in the year 1939, precisely when the Second World War broke out. I know him, I met with him personally, in a trench in Austria. Today, he told me we must work from the bottom up, before, we worked from the top down. Thus it is, the great master returned to eastern Tibet, he is there, living within a secret monastery, and he will return to Europe again in the year 1999. He is a man, and he must return at that time because it is written that in that year, an extraordinary event will occur. It is clear that in 1999, there will be a great eclipse, and it will bring tremendous consequences. Nostradamus, the great astrologer, assures that Hercolubus, that giant of space, 6 times larger than Jupiter, will pass through an angle of the solar system in the year 1999. Nostradamus emphasizes greatly in saying that then the earth will be pulled from its orbit and that there will be great darkness, that Hercolubus will be seen at midday, and that it will appear as a second sun, eclipsing the sun that shines on us and gives us life. That's what Nostradamus says. Obviously, Hercolubus will bring the total revolution of the Earth's axis, the poles will become the equator, and the equator will become the poles. When that happens, the fire, announced by all the prophets since ancient times, will spread everywhere, from the northern regions, and the water will change its course. Then, these continents will disappear into the depths of the oceans. All of you here, on the face of the earth, on the skin of this world, have very beautiful buildings, luxurious residences, supersonic planes, atomic submarines, fast ships crossing the ocean, etc. But truly I tell you, brothers, that all these things you possess are of no use, because everything will disappear with the great catastrophe, and from Babylon the Great, the mother of all fornications and abominations of the earth, not one stone will be left upon another. Before bidding farewell to his friends in the past century, Saint Germain said, I am going to London to perfect my invention. He was referring, at that time, to steamships and railroads. And he also said, the seasons will change, especially spring and summer will be the first to undergo some transformations. And we are seeing it, the climates are altering, the earth at this moment is in great agony, and no one can deny that. Humanity has rushed down the path of involution and total degeneration, and unquestionably, it is now sufficiently ripe for final karma. Saint Germain has accompanied humanity for a long time and will return for the critical moment in 1999. Great events are approaching, there will be wars everywhere and revolutions. In the coming decade, you will see blood and spirits, revolutions. Continuing onward, I must tell you that the true man still does not exist. The few men on the face of the earth, like Count Saint Germain, or Cagliostro, or Raymond Lull, or Nicholas Flamel, form a separate esoteric circle. So, what exists then? The three-brained biped or three-centered being, mistakenly called man. This means that we have not yet understood what man is. It is serious to know that all those present here believe they are men, and within the term man, I naturally include women, the companions. Truthfully, and although it may pain you, I must be a bit cruel, you have not yet reached the human state, you are intellectual humanoids, in other words, and please don't be offended, rational mammals. Just as a butterfly is formed inside the chrysalis, so too can the man be formed inside the humanoid. But for the man to be formed, for the man to be born within the humanoid, the seeds of the man must develop in each humanoid. Friedrich Nietzsche made a grave mistake when he spoke to us about the Superman. In his work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he says, the hour of the Superman has arrived. Man is to the Superman what the animal is to man, a painful shame, a laugh, a sarcasm, and nothing more. How wrong Nietzsche was in this, speaking of the Superman when the man has not yet even been born. Hitler followed Nietzsche to the dead letter. The mysticism of Germany at that time was Nietzsche's. In those days, any policeman, any soldier felt like a Superman. Nietzsche made a serious mistake in talking about the Superman in such terms. That mysticism, there's no doubt, served as a foundation for the Second World War. This is the moment when we must be analytical and reflect deeply. If we believe we are already men, we are very wrong. To be men, one must possess an astral body, a mental body, and a causal body, in addition to the physical body. When we examine the humanoid closely, we see that it has a vital seat, a linga sharira, as the Hindus say, which serves as the foundation for the mechanics of the living cell, but it does not possess the superior existential bodies of the being. Beyond the physical and vital body, the only thing that exists within the humanoid is the essence. This is the most dignified, the most decent thing we possess within. But the essence is trapped, imprisoned, bottled up within the various elements that constitute the ego, the self, the I. If we place a humanoid and a man face to face, they may look alike in their facial features, but observe their behavior, and you will see they are different. So, it is painful to say what I am saying, but it is the truth. Do not confuse the intellectual humanoid with the man. The secret doctrine of Anuak says that the gods created men out of wood and after creating them, fused them with divinity. But then it adds, not all men achieve fusion with divinity. This is serious. We need to create an astral body, we need to create a mental body, and we need to create the body of conscious will. One knows that they have an astral body when they can use it. One knows they have hands because they can use them, one knows they have feet because they can walk with them, likewise, one knows they have an astral body because they can enter and leave their physical body at will, to travel through infinite space. One knows they have a mental body because they can also use it at will, because with that body they can travel in the world of the mind, transport themselves to other planets in the solar system or the galaxy, enter the sacred temples of universal understanding, and acquire, through that body, transcendental knowledge. One knows they have the body of conscious will because with that vehicle, they can live in the causal world. Obviously, the true man is the causal man. When one has created an astral body, when they have given themselves the luxury of manufacturing the body of the mind, when they have taken the luxury of creating, for their personal use, the body of conscious will, then they receive, within themselves, the animic and spiritual principles and become a man. The true man is the king of creation. You may recall some time ago the great event in New York, the famous blackout. Then, all of New York was in darkness, and there were countless disorders everywhere. It was investigated using all current technical systems to discover the cause of the blackout, but it was all in vain. New York was left in darkness for an hour. United States Air Force planes launched against certain cosmic ships that were in sight, no more than 2. One of them left, through the unchanging infinite, the other landed on a control tower, and the blackout occurred. There's the Achilles heel of the United States, declared the generals of the General Staff, just take away the electric power from the United States, and its best weapons are useless. A small handful of men, perhaps 3 or 4, piloting a cosmic ship, plunged the United States into darkness. Just a small handful of men, I repeat. Photographs were taken, and it has been proven that it was cosmic ships that burst into the skies of the United States. It was then that the matter of cosmic ships was taken seriously, it was then that a Department of State was truly created to investigate that issue. So, those are men. The man is the king of creation. He has power over fire, over air, over water, over earth. A group of men, 3 or 4, dominated the United States. But how could anyone call themselves man if they do not have power over fire, over the air, over the waters, and over the earth? Man is king, and if he is not king, he is not man. However, not all men, says the secret doctrine of Anuak, manage to merge with divinity. One must create the superior existential bodies of the being to become men, and this is only possible by transmuting the sperm into sexual energy. Only through sexual transmutation is it possible to achieve such a creation. Sexual energy is an extremely subtle, powerful force, it has its own system of wonderful channels. When such energy leaves its respective channels, it can cause a catastrophe. But if that energy circulates through its proper conduits, if it manages to ascend to the brain through its channels, then, by induction, it awakens a third force that is astonishing. I emphatically refer to Kundalini, the fiery serpent of our magical powers. Whoever awakens this extraordinary power can become a true man, whoever awakens such power can escape from a hermetically sealed box, whoever awakens such power can unleash hurricanes and make the earth tremble, whoever awakens such power can release lightning and thunder, whoever awakens such power can remain alive for millions of years, like Count Saint Germain or that other extraordinary man, called Cagliostro. Yes, brothers, the time has come to understand that within sexual force lies the key to all powers and the key to all empires. Sexual force is truly a force that can both liberate and enslave the human being. If it is used properly, if it is transmuted, if it rises to the brain, it can grant us all powers, but if it is squandered in fornication, in lust, it can turn us into beasts, terribly evil ones. We, who are present here, are gathered thanks to sexual force. Our parents provided us with this body of flesh and bone that we have. Obviously, it is with such force that we can afford to create an astral body. Obviously, it is with such force that we can afford to create, for our own use, the mental body. Undeniably, it is with such force that we can create the body of conscious will, or causal body. With that set of vehicles, we can, as I have already said, receive our ethnic principles and become true men. But whoever foolishly squanders the creative energy will not be able to manufacture the superior existential bodies of the being. If you want to come to know the highest keys needed for the creation of the superior existential bodies of the being, you must study my work The Perfect Matrimony. It is also advisable to study that other work titled The Mystery of the Golden Blossom. With such books, you will have the necessary techniques for handling the creative energy. Thus, it becomes necessary to create men. For this, the disposition to become a man is needed. Within our sexual endocrine glands, the seeds of the superior existential bodies of the being exist. These seeds can develop if we cooperate, but it is also possible that these seeds may be lost, unable to develop, if we do not cooperate. The Sun is conducting a great experiment. It has created this race with the purpose of creating men. So, if we do not cooperate with the Sun, the seeds for man will be lost. I want you to know that we are like chrysalises. Within us, man must form the king, the lord of creation, the master. Until now, we are nothing more than miserable creatures, poor thinking animals, condemned to the punishment of living. The time has come to create man. It is also necessary to understand the need to die. Unless the seed dies, the plant does not sprout. The seed must die for the plant to sprout. We could even afford to create man within ourselves, but if we do not eliminate all those undesirable elements we carry within, we will become Hannes Mussen, with the double center of gravity. A few years ago, I conducted a remarkable experiment. At that time, I set out to thoroughly investigate that famous Conjuration of the Seven, by Solomon. I remember, and the case of André still comes to mind. I called him from a deep cavern. I called him with the great invocation of Peter of Apono. The objective, research. At last, after a long time, André appeared, taking the form of a sinister character. Everything seemed to fill with darkness. It was then that André spoke and said, "I didn't know it was you who was calling. If I had known, I would have come sooner. What can I do for you? Give me your hand, André." He gave it to me. Then he withdrew, and I withdrew. Some time later, along with another bodhisattva and a group of brothers, we made an esoteric, magical call, forming a chain within the room. A cold and somber hurricane reached the chamber. The M resonated as a vowel, and finally, André appeared at the threshold. His body was gigantic, enormous. I presented him to everyone. Behold, André. The bodhisattva who was calling with me fled in terror. André had a high, broad forehead, his nose was straight, his lips thin and delicate, his ears small and close, in his blue eyes, the starry firmament was reflected, his hands were like those of a Francis of Assisi or a Jesus of Nazareth, in his right hand, he held the staff of white magic, and over his heart shone the wings of the eagle. He wore a black tunic, and a white sash crossed that tunic, wrapping around his body. He greeted everyone in the great chain harmoniously. His bearing was truly marvelous. He sat in the office of that place and allowed me to speak. He gave me some wise advice. Place yourself, he told me, in the best possible environment. Remember that we are all angels, and we have no reason to wallow in the mud. I was conversing with André, and despite his harmonious bearing, there was a strange presence felt underneath. It seemed as though he himself was suffering. He was a throne, yes, of splendid beauty, but there was another personality that corresponded to him, a dark personality that, obviously, caused him pain. Later, when I sought out my friend, the Bodhisattva, I asked him, "Why did you flee?" His response: I couldn't resist the hypnotic force of Andraim Lek. Is that man a black magician, or is he a white magician? An enigma. For an entire day, we, as initiates, reflected on what kind of man he was. He appeared in the Conjuration of the Seven by the wise Solomon. He was extraordinary, marvelous, but what kind of man was he really? Only later could we see that he was a Hannes Mussen, with the double center of gravity, a throne part man-angel, part devil. Well, I've told you this to say that not all men manage to merge with divinity. If one of us creates the superior existential bodies of the being but does not eliminate the ego, they become a Hannes Mussen with a double center of gravity, an abortion of the cosmic mother. Second part. Distinguished Gnostic brothers, distinguished sisters, today I bid you farewell simply by saying, see you later. In the name of truth, we must say see you later, because we will return. Each year, we will make a tour. And these tours are very necessary in order to bring this esoteric Christic wisdom to all the Gnostic groups of our beloved Mexican homeland. The time has come to understand the need to create man. Friedrich Nietzsche said, I come to speak to you about the Superman. Man is nothing but a bridge stretched between the animal and the Superman, a dangerous passage, a dangerous look back, everything in him is dangerous. Nietzsche forgot about man. Before speaking of the Superman, it is necessary to speak of man. In truth, Nietzsche believed that man already existed and that we should immediately become supermen. We have taught all Gnostic brothers the path of the revolution of consciousness. Only through the deep inner revolution is it possible to create man. We have pointed out the three factors of the revolution of consciousness: to die, to be born, and to sacrifice ourselves for humanity. We have emphatically stated many times that man does not yet exist and that he must be created within ourselves, here and now. In truth, for man to exist, the seeds that are within him must be properly cultivated. Within man lies the seed of man. I refer to within the animal man, that is, within the intellectual animal, there are the seeds for man, but the disposition to become man is necessary. When we transmute the sacred sperm into creative energy, when we sublimate that marvelous force contained in the sexual endocrine glands, the seed for man then develops and unfolds. Man must be born within us, and this is possible exclusively by sublimating that marvelous force that exists within each of us. I have said many times that the sun is currently conducting a great experiment. It wants to create men. In the time of Abraham, the sun carried out some creations. During the early centuries of Christianity, the sun also managed to make some creations, and in these precise moments of global crisis and the collapse of all principles, the sun is conducting a new experiment. It wants to create men. But we must cooperate with the sun, only then can the man emerge within us. The man.